So Mike Reynolds, stoked to be here with you today on Kanawa Island in Indonesia, where we're building Earthships, and so glad we could take the time to get together and really, I want to hear a little bit about your story, and also obviously the Earthship story, and really get into some of the technology and how these things are built for people who, you know, have maybe seen them or maybe haven't seen them, and this is the first time they're really looking at you and this concept. So thanks so much for taking the time. It's great to be connected.
Great.
Right on. So what I'd love to hear about first is, can you just, I mean, we've got this beautiful Earthship in the background that is just being built or still being built, and you're creating these things. What's the concept? What is an Earthship in a nutshell? What are we really talking about here?
Well, we call it an Earthship because it comes in our minds, it's like a vessel to sail on the earth. Like a vessel to sail on the sea, a vessel to sail in space. This vessel sails on the earth in a very similar way. It doesn't need, you know, a ship in space doesn't have infrastructure that's hooked back to the earth, some umbilical cord or something. It has to capture everything for human sustenance on its own. So that's the concept of an Earthship. It encounters the phenomena of the planet to deal with what we call the 6 things that all of humanity has to deal with in every circumstance, in every city, village, country around the world. And that is, everybody needs water, sure. Everybody needs comfortable shelter, preferably without consuming fuel. Yep. Everybody needs electricity for all of our stuff, cell phones and computers and lights and pumps and whatever. Mm-hmm. Everybody makes sewage, so we have to have something to do with sewage. Everybody makes garbage, so we have to have something to do with garbage. And everybody eats food. You can't have life without those 6 things being addressed. Mm-hmm. If you miss any one of them, life gets miserable. You know, imagine life without water. Imagine life without, and this happens a lot around the world, imagine life without sanitary treatment of sewage. Cholera, everything happens. So you have to address those 6 things. And the governments aren't doing it. They're building nuclear power plants. They're dumping sewage into bays and rivers and streams and whatever. The governments are not doing it adequately. So we're saying, okay, we can do it. We can do it in groups of 60 to 100 people or individually, and we make this vessel do all of those things. Mm-hmm. And then we bring in the ingredient of people, and they start to understand how this works, and they want to continue with this direction of life. One, because it's more secure. You know, you don't need to, like, imagine the people in Japan, for instance, that were dependent on massive amounts of electricity, and all of a sudden the nuclear power plant melted down, and now they're on some kind of a brownout basis and minimal limited, and still polluting and ruining the whole northern hemisphere. So people feel more secure with using less power. I mean, we got enough power here. We charge our cell phones, we charge computers, we run pumps, we run lights. What else do you need? And so we don't have to have electricity to heat or cool because the building stays cool. And so it's making a vessel. An Earthship is simply a vessel that encounters the phenomena of the planet to provide sustenance for people.
Wow, fantastic. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how the Earthship actually handles those 6 things, those critical things. Before we do that, I'd love to get a bit of the backstory, because this is the bit that I'm truly fascinated and curious about, of how this all came about.
Well, it came about in little doses for 50 years. You know, I graduated from architectural school. I went to New Mexico. I saw a news show with Walter Cronkite and this other guy, Charles Kuralt, on the road doing video. Mm-hmm. And Walter did a piece on beer cans being thrown all over the streets and highways and national parks and everything. And he said, we're going to have a problem with garbage in the future. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, he did. And the Charles Kuralt guy, I think, did a piece on clear-cutting timber in the Northwest. And the clear-cutting of timber has caused, you know, they do it for housing, but it's caused erosion. And when they clear-cut timber, they seriously cut into our oxygen supplies on this planet. And they predicted a problem with CO2 in the future. This was in the early 70s.
Wow.
And of course, now we've got a major garbage problem, we've got a major CO2 problem.
Yep.
But that newscast started me as a young architectural graduate thinking in that direction. So I said, okay, why cut trees to make housing? Why don't I make housing out of the cans that people don't want?
Yep.
So I started making beer can houses, and I was called an idiot, I was called incompetent, you know, but I made some beer can houses, and I actually got show-only permits for them, and then I looked around and saw other garbage, and I looked around and the news was talking about energy crisis, and so I was already using garbage to build with, so I discovered that I could build with automobile tires rammed with earth, because their tires are indigenous to the entire planet.
Sure.
And that would create thermal mass that would stabilize temperature, adding physics to the equation, and would keep buildings stably temperatured if you're admitting or not admitting sun, and
Yep.
you're tuning into the temperature of the earth. And so
Nice.
it just added one thing at a time, and now in recent history, people saying the next world wars are going to be fought over water. Well, water comes from the sky. Why are we fighting over water? So we catch, like this building during the rainy season, catches enough water for 2 people to live here for 4 months without any other rain.
Wow.
And then a way that it does that is the sewage system.
Okay.
The shower water goes into rubber-lined cells that go all the way around the building and
Okay.
grow food, and grow plants, and it recircs. So your shower water is recircling around the building all day long until you flush your toilet. And when you flush your toilet, the pump goes into that and flushes your toilet with your recirced shower water. So you're flushing your toilet with yesterday's shower, but it's been recirced, and recircing
Through
it
the garden.
when the plants suck up that water, they spit out oxygen. And so the water is getting oxygenated by the
Wow.
plants, and the plants are getting nurtured by the water. So it's like you're basically cutting your water use in half, really more than in half, because you're not having to water these plants because your shower is watering.
Yes.
And so and then that tunes in to the production of food.
Right.
So the whole thing is kind of interrelated, like the systems of your body are interrelated. Like your nervous system, your digestive system, your circulatory system, they all work together.
Sure.
Not one of them is all isolated all by itself. As a matter of fact, your body is a product of the systems that make it a body.
Yeah.
And it's not like your body was designed to look good and then they shove systems in it. You know, your body is nothing but a bunch of systems. That's
Yep.
what these buildings are. They're just a bunch of systems that take care of people in a
Right.
way that doesn't destroy the planet.
Wow. So we've got the water going around, and then you said when you flush your toilet, then the sewage comes. So then what happens?
Well, when you flush your toilet, it goes into these botanical cells. There's a pump in there, and it sucks up that water to flush the toilet with. And then it goes back in to an anaerobic processor, like a septic tank, that turns everything into liquid, and then that same liquid goes back into the loop.
Wow.
So every bit of liquid waste from the people living here is going into 100 feet of planter, rubber-lined, circulating around the building all day long whenever the sun's out. And that circulation is cleansing it just like a stream. And it's run with a little solar pump. And whenever you need it for flushing the toilet, you dip into it and put it right back. And so we're constantly making more and more charged water in these cells, so that these meager plants that we got started growing here now, they're going to go crazy over the next few months.
Yeah, wow.
And just have all the water they need. And we've seen it before. We have this system in a desert circumstance in New Mexico.
Yep.
Cold desert. We're at 7,000 feet.
Wow.
So you walk in off the cold, dry desert where it's so cold that your nose, inside your nose is freezing. You walk in a door, and there's parakeets and bananas and tilapia and waterfalls from this system. It's a botanical gardens. No heating, nothing but no electricity from power grids or anything, but it's a jungle.
Wow.
Now here you don't have to worry about it being cold, so you can just make this jungle. But what we're saying is the sewage system makes the jungle. In other words, the presence of people on this planet can add to the rainforest rather than take away the rainforest.
Yeah,
if we do
nice.
it right, every day that people live, the rainforest grows.
Yeah.
But here, at this point in time, every day that humans are alive on this planet, the rainforest diminishes. And so we're looking to demonstrate a way of people becoming an agent that makes the planet better. And the best analogy I have for that is trees. You never hear anybody say there are too many trees, but you hear lots of people say there are too many people.
Too many humans,
The reason they
sure.
say there are too many, they never say there are too many trees, is because trees have become such a part of the planet that they really are the planet.
Yeah,
So
sure.
why couldn't people be the same way?
Yeah. What a beautiful thought. What a lovely idea, for sure. There's lots of people, concerned about the population explosion and all this kind of thing.
Well, the planet could handle 10 times as many people if they were all nurturing it
Yeah.
rather than cutting away the
Yeah,
rainforest.
sure.
So we're just making buildings that unconsciously almost do that. We're
Yeah.
making, a lot of people ride a vessel in space or on a ship or whatever and aren't really aware of how it works. So our first thing is to make these vessels available and affordable to everybody on every financial strata, so that even if they're not conscious, they're still happy because it's taking care of them for free. The money factor.
Yeah.
You got no utility bills in one of these buildings.
Sure.
Like,
Ever.
Ever. We have 2-bedroom, 2-bath with a garage buildings in the cold desert of New Mexico. The total annual utility bill, year after year after year, turns out to be $120. Total annual utility bill. And that's for some
Amazing.
gas to cook with,
Sure.
if you must cook with gas. We cook with solar and you make it zero then.
Yeah.
But, and also with all these jungles and all the food growing, you can graze. I mean, I do that in New Mexico a lot. I just walk around to 2 or 3 of the buildings and graze. That's all I eat.
Pick some bananas.
Pick some bananas,
yeah.
pick some strawberries, pick some greens. As a matter of fact, that gets into a whole nother thing, which I may be playing with here.
Yeah.
We start to explore, like this plant that grows like crazy all by itself. We'll take those leaves, we'll look up the name of that plant.
These vines.
Yeah,
Yep.
and we'll find out what it's got. Is it edible? And it could be that plant is edible. And we just start eating it. In other words, we don't grow what we eat.
Yeah.
We eat what grows.
Eat what grows.
And
Beautiful.
then a perfect example of that is the Japanese introduced a plant called kudzu to the U.S. For whatever reason, and it's a vine, and people hate it because it takes over forests. It grows really fast, really easy, and it just absolutely chokes out forests. So when you're eating what you grow, when you're not dependent on when you want to not be dependent on boats bringing food over and whatever,
Sure.
in any circumstance.
Yeah.
If you want to produce food, you can produce tomatoes and cucumbers and all this stuff, and you have to grow them, and they're not going to keep up with you and keep you alive. You need a plant that is aggressive on its own, that can grow so fast it'll attack you in the night. And the kudzu is that way. So we're
Sure.
introducing kudzu to every one of the Earthship gardens inside. If it got loose on the desert, it'd just die because there's not enough water or anything
sure.
for it. But inside, it takes over, and it's got leaves in these botanical cells. It's real happy. It's got leaves that big around,
Yep.
and you just go and they taste pretty good, and they're medicinal. They're nutritious. You could live on it,
Right.
and it can keep up with your appetite.
Nice.
So we're looking at actual things that people call bad.
How do we eat weeds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you look up the definition of weed,
Yeah.
and all it says in Webster's is it's an unwanted plant.
Oh.
So if you didn't want a watermelon, it's a weed.
Yeah,
know.
sure.
So every plant, in my opinion, I want every plant because I want green, I want the oxygen, I want the food. Almost every plant is edible or medicinal.
Yep.
So whenever I get to an area, I look at what's growing and see if what grows by itself and happy and wild and I add that to tomatoes and watermelons and
Yeah,
stuff. And I'll
wow.
still grow the things I like, but
Yep.
if it comes down to staying alive, I want to know what my options are.
Yeah, of course. It's fantastic. I've got this idea that, you know, we take this guy or this family, and he's living in the city, he's living in the suburbs, and he's got to drive his car that's burning fossil fuels to his job, you know, that for the most part he hates, to make money that's made up, right, to buy stuff that he doesn't need, to impress people that he doesn't like, and he's got the mortgage and the education for the kids and college expense and all this different stuff. There's a lot of stress in that way of living. And so we come to him and say, hey, you know, did you hear about the plastic in the ocean? Did you hear about the deforestation? Did you hear about the, you know, all the landfill issues, all the major, you hear about the CO2, all these major issues facing humanity? And that guy, well, what's he going to do? Because he's in this city, he's in this structure. And so I kind of look at it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but I reckon that the major problems that are facing, they're not actually personal, they're structural. Because in that structure, there's not a lot that guy can do. And maybe he cares and maybe he doesn't, but if we take him and put him in an Earthship community with 60 to 100 people in a village, in an Eve village, he might still be an asshole and not care at all. But now just by being here, he's part of the solution for humanity and the planet rather than part of the problem.
The gravity of the situation puts him in orbit, basically. And yeah, that's the thing. We don't want to go around preaching to people about ecology. We want to provide logic that makes it so this is their best choice.
Yeah, nice.
And when you live in a building, you know, we're also, you notice these buildings are fairly simple.
Sure.
I mean, you can make luxurious ones, but when you live in a building that has no heating bill or cooling bill,
yeah,
that's money that you don't have to have. When you live in a building that has its own water and has its own electricity, that's money that you don't have to earn. When you live in a building that produces food, same story. So what I'm saying is we are carving into this thing called economy. And this economy is almost God on this planet now.
Sure.
And when you all the media talks about it all the time. I mean, when all the riots in Egypt and Ukraine and all these different places where the people are unhappy, they're wanting a better economy. But they don't know what that is. Nobody knows what that is. So what we're trying to do with this whole movement is decrease the potency of economy to the point where I know you can't do without an economy, but I want it to be what I call an insignificant economy.
Nice.
So we have an economy, an insignificant economy, and it takes economy out of the God range and puts it down into the game range.
Yeah,
economy is kind of a game. You want to be a Donald Trump and make a bunch of money, fine, it's your choice. But by the way we do that, and I think this is the right of every man, woman, and child on this planet, is sustenance of people should not be involved in economy. In other words, to get your water, power, sewage, shelter, food, dealt with, you should have access to that via the encounters with the phenomena, not governments and corporations. So then if everybody's got sustenance dealt with, then they can play the economy game, and economy is insignificant, if they even want to.
Yeah, sure.
And
wow, what a
it's
concept.
a crime that people have to make money to get bananas. Jesus Christ. When you can really just take a shit and get
water.
Bananas. Yeah, it's like, that's the thing. It's like, so, and we're seeing that it's possible. And so we're basically cutting into the strength of economy.
Perfect.
So it's going way beyond ecology and ecotourism and eco-education and sustainable and green. We're going into the way people live on this planet.
Wow. I think it's so cool, because you look at the word economy, it's the management of scarce resources. So it's supply and demand. It says there's not enough, so if you want some, then you've got to pay. And then we're going, there's not enough bananas, so you've got to pay. There's not enough water, and it's insane, because it's the exact opposite. Economy is the opposite of an ecology. When you go into the rainforest, and there's no scarcity there. Everything's growing, everything's thriving, everything's happening. And what you're doing is saying, hey, let's create our own ecology that we're part of, that we're an integral part of, like the trees are part of it.
Yeah.
and then let's thrive in that, and then have, if we want to play this other game called economy, management of scarce resources, supply and demand, we can do that if we want to, or we can not. We can just do art, or we can be on the beach, or we can be with our children, or we can tend to our gardens, or we can do what's on our heart to do.
It gives people options when you take their sustenance away from the economy.
Yeah.
Then they're going to be okay no matter
Yeah.
what. Then they can decide to have a life or not. That's the thing. And
Wow.
and if there is anything that governments or corporations should do, in my opinion, on
Yep.
this planet, they should subsidize getting people in housing that takes care of them
Yeah,
and the
wow.
planet. Then everything else would take care of itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you would have people from any country driving airplanes into the Twin Towers
Sure.
of New York City if everybody had everything. If
Yeah.
everybody's got
Had their
enough
needs
of
met.
everything, then it's a matter of how many TVs do you want to store up, or how big of a stack of cash do you want? You can't eat it, But right now, cash is food for the family.
Yeah.
But food for the family, my building takes care of that.
Yeah.
Heat for the family, or cooling for the family, or shelter for the family, my building takes care of that. Water for the family, my building takes care of that. My method of living on this planet takes care of my family. Stress is gone. Heart attacks are gone. Cancer is gone. Crime is gone. I mean, it affects everything to give people the opportunity to encounter the planet and have a life.
So what do you see as the natural outcome for that? And maybe even a step before that, like the process. So we've got, a lot of people are now working. We've got tons of people here working on Earthships, building on Earthships, and there's a huge movement that's kind of created around this concept, and it's really cool to see it growing. And we could probably fairly safely say that the majority of the planet have never heard of this and have no idea what's going on. When we look at 7 billion people, it's while there's a lot of people doing this, it's really a small percentage. So what's the process for sharing this with more people? And then really what I'm getting at is what do you see as the end result of that? If we can have people living in a way where the sustenance doesn't depend on economy, where the way I'm living, the structure that I'm in takes care of my basic daily needs, and then I'm free to kind of do what I want to do, what kind of a world would that be?
Well, it would be a different world.
Sure.
It would be,
What do you see?
You're taking, imagine the world somehow, and this is how, taking stress out of it, taking greed out of it.
Wow.
Because then you've got people happy, and they'll play music, they'll do art, they'll create, in other words, it just opens doors to kind of a heavenly existence on this
Wow.
planet. Right now, everybody, even the wealthy people, are stressed out because they've got to
gonna
keep
lose
up
it.
this level of
Yeah.
of life that costs money. Everything costs money, and I've been playing the game for a long time, and after 50 years, I'm starting to see it work. But even the people on our staff,
Yep.
they have gotten Earthships, and they don't have a heating bill, and they
Yeah.
don't have an electrical bill. And now some of them are getting more Earthships to share and rent to other people. And they work because they want to work.
Yeah.
Most of the people that work with us work because they want this to be a virus.
Wow.
And that's what it's getting to be. It's like we're going around the world sneezing on people. We're not on a soapbox saying, do this, be ecological, be green. We're just sneezing.
Just doing it.
And we're just living, and it is a virus. It spreads like a virus if it's right. And see, it hasn't been right that long. And maybe in the last, everything was, laboriously took a lot of effort to make this work. And the toilet system in the early days didn't work as good as it does now, and nothing worked as good. In the last 10 years, it's gotten to be where we put one of these down, people want them.
Yeah,
It's just
right.
as simple as that.
Yeah.
We put it down, and people come and spend the night in it, and they go, "Oh, I can't believe that this is even possible."
Yeah.
One of the best comments we got that I took as an insult at first, but then I realized that it wasn't an insult. People said in one of our Earthships in New Mexico, they said, "We spent the night here, and we couldn't tell it from a regular house." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Wait a second, that's what you want. they have all the amenities. They had flat screen
Yeah.
TV, high-speed internet, lights, hot shower, flush toilet. They couldn't tell it from a regular
Yeah,
house.
sure.
The only thing is, it's not hooked up to anything. It's
Yep.
hooked up to the sky. So that's when, you know, we're starting to hear stuff like that. So we know we have come of age in that respect. But there's still so much to learn. I mean,
Sure.
we have been working in the cold climates much longer, and we've got that. You know, you can be 20 below 0 Fahrenheit and walk into one of these and it's comfortable.
It's amazing.
Without any fuel, and that blows people's minds.
Yeah.
Well, we're perfecting the you know, we've done a lot of tropical stuff, Nicaragua and Jamaica and you know, all over the place, Bonaire, but we're getting to really hone it.
Sure.
We've made a few course corrections from this one to the new one.
Yep.
But they're small now, and to get the tropical situation so that the building is cool. You know, as you know, like we just went up the road here to a surfing place over the weekend, and you know, they had a room. I rented a room, and it was for $40. I mean, it was fairly nice. But I mean, how could they afford to rent that room for $40? They had an air conditioning going the whole time I was there, and it had to be eating up a lot of
Sure.
energy.
Yep.
And it kept it cool inside. The toilet hardly flushed. The shower was ridiculous. But you know, our toilet flushes like crazy, and we know every time we flush it, we're making plants, and the shower goes into the same thing. And so
Yeah.
then you can make the experience nice. That's what we're doing now, is
Beautiful.
going back and trying to clean up surfaces, and we got everything functioning. Now we're going to make it beautiful. And
Yeah,
the point
nice.
is, what good does it do to make a beautiful boat if it's going to go out there and sink?
Yeah.
You know, I want the boat to float.
Yeah.
And then when I see that it floats, then I'll make it pretty.
Sure. Nice. And having said that, I mean, these things are stunning. They've just got such a unique character and style and flavor. And I've looked at tons of videos and looked at all the images online, but when you're actually here and seeing it, it is more beautiful than I could have imagined.
They're fun. They're fun to do, and
I'll bet.
But see, the people that are doing it are wanting to learn, and see, the people that are here, they've paid a fee to come here and learn.
Yep.
And so they're not only paying, you know, they're not being paid to work like normal people. They're paying to work, and what that means is to work and learn. So the quality of the work that the quality of themselves that they
Yeah.
put into it,
What they bring.
they bring their heart and soul into it. It's not just like being paid a fee per day to work because you need money. I mean, I got a guy in my office who has on his board of things to do, it says, do work, get money. You know, that's what it usually is. Do
Sure.
work, get money, and then
Yeah.
you spend the money. These people are here to engage in a different threshold of living on this planet.
Wow. So what's the opportunity for people to get involved? I mean, we've got how many people on this little island right now?
I'd
with
say we've got about 55 people from out of country,
Yep.
and then another 8 or 10 from locals.
Yep.
And you know, we're tuning up the local people and getting them involved, and so it's kind of a blend,
Beautiful.
and they're getting jobs, and they're getting education, and they're getting some money, and the whole thing is kind of growing again with an economy, but it's an insignificant economy.
Beautiful. So people can, and you've got the academy, of course, Earthship Academy, so people can come and say, oh, look, I want to learn how to build this. I want to build one for myself, or I want to build a business out of this, or I want to, you know, whatever they want to do, for whatever reasons, come and learn how to do it.
Yeah, they come and usually they come to one of these just to see what it's about,
Yep.
and then they'll go, oh my God, I really want to know. Because see, we don't have classroom thing. I do a Q&A here,
Yep.
and the plumber does a Q&A, and the steel guy does a Q&A, and Harry does a Q&A, he's the foreman, and the carpenter does a Q&A. We have Q&As on the things we are doing here.
Yep.
But we have a curriculum, like a 40 course curriculum,
Wow.
40 class curriculum that is a month-long course, and it's an academy, and it needs a classroom, and so it's intense, where there's 40 or 50 people in every academy, and they spend half of the time in class and the other half on build.
Wow.
And then that's when and there's a textbook and everything. And there's
Wow.
philosophy, the whole thinking behind where these thoughts came from and why, the logic. So we do 6 of those sessions. They're month-long sessions. We do 6 of them at our campus in New Mexico, but then we're starting to make satellite campuses around the world.
Wow.
And we just did, say, an academy a year and a half or so ago in Uruguay. We built a school, a 3-room school for, for the local kids that are in a house. They were in a house, in a bedroom as a classroom and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we built a 3-room school, and it was wildly successful. I mean, they just loved it. It changed the kids' whole perspective on school because by virtue of the fact that they're sitting in a classroom, they're getting an education, not to mention the classes. And we're getting ready to go from here. We're going to Colombia, but then we're going to go to France in Bordeaux and we're going to do an academy there that's going to build a house for a couple.
Wow.
So we do the academies whenever we can, around 2 or 3 around the world, as well as at our campus.
Fantastic. And then you mentioned, Bordeaux, there's a couple that want an Earthship built, and they're not going to build it themselves. They're saying, hey, just
they're going
come
to participate,
Yep.
but see, the thing is, with our academy, 50 people, 40 people, and us, 10 or 12 people, we'll have 50, 60 people on site. We can build them a 2-bedroom, we've done it many times, 2-bedroom, 2-bath home in a month. Done.
Wow.
They call it, we did one in Canada, 3 bedrooms, 2-bath. The guy put it on his Facebook. He called it dirt to doorknobs in 5 weeks.
Nice.
And he's setting up there. His first winter, they had a big snow drift, and it closed in the whole west side of their house, of their Earthship. And he put a thing on Facebook that said, my wife and I are trapped in our Earthship from a snowdrift. Please don't rescue us.
Yeah. Fantastic. Because he's okay.
Oh yeah,
indefinitely.
He's got tomatoes growing in the hallway, and
Yeah.
he's got everything. He's got power. He's warm.
That's fantastic. Mike, I think that is, we've really got to the heart of what this is all about and who's involved and how it's all happening and how it's spreading like, one of the best kind of viruses on Earth right now. It's fantastic. Any last final comments, thoughts, observations, anything you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Well, I think a thing to point out is like this opportunity to do this came from ERI and John creating a situation in Indonesia where land became, they made land available, and they're making land available in a way that is sort of following some rules of ecology and trying to, you can't do something like this without land. We've got the building, we've got the vessel, we've got the academy, we've got the program, but you need land to do it on.
Sure.
And to have a group of people that has joined forces with the government to guide in the development of land and make opportunities for things that they think would be good guides, which I think that's what they've chosen us for, is a key thing.
Gotcha.
I've told John he should do this all over the world. He doesn't want the stress, but but to do this thing of making land available for eco-development is what every country should do, I think, because every country usually just sells out to the highest bidder and dumps sewage into the sea and brings in diesel and kills everything, and a lot of 5-star resorts go up, and the world gets worse.
Yeah.
But if, money not being the issue, money is a tool.
Sure.
But gathering and hoarding and making lots of money is not the issue. I think what I tell people is our company is the best on earth at treading water.
Nice.
That's what we do. Trees live hand to mouth, animals live hand to mouth. We live hand to mouth.
Yeah.
We don't store up. We don't have dividends and banks full of money. We live hand to mouth because we're living off of earth and human equity constantly. And there's 7 billion people on this planet, and there is our equity.
Beautiful.
We're using people and ourselves as currency, so we never run out.
Yeah.
You know, so you have a certain amount of leap of faith, trust there.
Sure.
But it seems to be working.
It's very different to, you know, certainly the mainstream, or well, not even what people think, but what people have been conditioned to think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by John, you're talking John Higson.
This guy
And
right here.
ERI is Eco Regions Indonesia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah. They've opened doors for this kind of thing to happen.
yeah, perfect. Fantastic. Mike, thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful that we could make time to get together, and I just love what you're doing. Anybody who's looking to you know, get connected with this, plug into the academy, get an Earthship, find out more, I'm happy to have conversations, and anybody who's interested, I'm happy to pass them on and introduce you to your team. And so yeah, stoked with the work you're doing, and really looking forward to spending some more time here on Kanawa this morning. Just checking this all out, meeting I've met a bunch of the people already, and there's you know, there's such a passion, there's such a fire in everybody I meet for doing this. It's not like, oh, I've got this job, I've got construction, I've got to build the thing. People are on fire for this.
They are. Like I've noticed that for a long time when people are, myself included, when people are inspired, they're 10 times as strong, emotionally and physically, when they're inspired. You know, it's like how generals used to amp up their army to go to war, you know, with some kind of a speech about freedom or whatever. You know, people are inspired to do this, and it makes it so that we can do anything. You know, we're getting ready to go to Colombia and build up on top of a ridge. So here we have to boat the materials to the island. There we have to boat the materials to the beach and then take them up a 45-degree slope to the top of a ridge and build up there. But we can do it.
It's good for people to be 10 times stronger when you get that kind of work.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Mike.
All right,
Appreciate
nice
your time.
Okay.
Let's get back to it.
Okay. All right.